Page 6 now, the Second Amendment and open carry in Texas. The House of Representatives approved open carry, or constitutional carry. That is, Texans will be able to carry a firearm without a license.
It's time to join the ranks of states like Massachusetts and other states and allow our citizens to have this right. It's time for somebody in the middle of August that's stopping to get their gas, that has their jacket off, that's got their concealed handgun license. They can pump gas without violating the law.
If you can carry a gun, you can carry a knife. If you're pro being able to open carry, then why wouldn't you vote for this amendment? This is common sense. This is Texas.
Now, Texas Governor Greg Abbott is signaling that he will sign the bill making open carry legal. Texas is now the 6th state in the union to legalize constitutional carry. This is their former governor sets his political sights on his rival presidential aspirants in the Senate. Joining me now, author, speaker, strategic consultant, and Daily Ledger contributor T.J. O'Hara. T.J., Rick Perry, I guess in kind of a backhanded way, is trying to underline, boldface, italicize his executive experience versus the senators.
Well, of course, and what he's trying to do is build a brand. When you think about it, you know, first it was the Mensa glasses to show that he's intellectually astute. Then he started going around the country telling everybody that he had met with stellar economists, as if shaking the hands of Einstein made someone good at math. So now he's trying to position himself against the only 3 Republicans who have announced, all of whom are first-term senators. So the parallel is legitimate. We have experience with a first-term senator who's kind of doing on-the-job training. So he makes an interesting point when he says that their youth and their inexperience could be a challenge. It's unlike being governor. But unfortunately for Rick forgets that coming into the race, you're going to have Jeb Bush, you're going to have Mike Huckabee, and you have a current governor in Scott Walker. So he's actually setting up an argument that may mitigate against his own differentiation. And, you know, what can you say other than, oops?
Mensa glasses, huh? I always thought that was because he was nearsighted, but hey, I learned something on this program. Hillary Clinton, meantime, Marxist pablum, spewing out her first week on the campaign trail and, you know, playing the old class warfare card.
I'm shocked that you feel that way, because she's clearly a populist candidate. I mean, this is dirt poor Hillary, who sent an email out to her ardent supporters, not to be confused with the millions of fake Twitter followers that she has. Mm-hmm. And in the email, essentially what she said was that we have CEOs in this country that make 300 times as much as the average American worker. And when you think about that, 300 is an interesting number, because Hillary charges $300,000 for a 1-hour speaking engagement. Given that, if you do the math, Hillary would have to work 40 days a year if she only did 1 speech a day to be able to exceed the income of those CEOs that she's so keen on denigrating. And you know, that would give her 325 days to just be that middle-class grandma.
Yeah, and she's the engineer on the hypocritical train, that's for sure. Now, in the House of Representatives, I think it was largely a symbolic vote that they took. I mean, it was an interesting vote, but largely symbolic. Probably had 0 chance of becoming law. But what these folks were trying to do was to say to the federal workers who are tax dodgers, don't do that anymore, because we're coming after you.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's the 2nd year in a row that it's failed. Now, the vote was 266 in favor of the bill to only 160 against it. So it has huge majority bipartisan support, but there is a procedural technicality that requires 2/3, which would require an additional 30 votes. What's interesting is when you hear the arguments against it, you have Representative Elijah Cummings, who says that this unfairly singles out federal employees, and he says there are other methods of garnering the wages, for example, through garnishment, and that they have to have a job to be able to pay their taxes. He seems to miss the Marie Harf nuance, if I may, that these people are being paid with tax dollars, and they're establishing, in effect, their own personal exemption. But my favorite is Steny Hoyer, who, beyond having a kind of an interesting name, has little else to his record of 34 years. And he comes out and says that if this were to be applied to the average worker in the private sector, they'd all quit. Here's a news flash. If you or I were to steal or divert money from our companies, we would be fired, and no one else would quit.
And you'd probably be thrown in jail. So maybe want to tell Steny that. I don't know any other Stenys, by the way. I don't know about you. For the Obama administration, a Christmas present in spring for us. Isn't that nice? They're telling us exactly how we ought to and how we should not hang our Christmas lights. Isn't that sweet?
Well, that's the Consumer Protection Safety Commission, which is proposing 25 pages of new regulations to help you and I figure out the difficult job of hanging Christmas lights safely. Now, keep in mind that over the last 20 years or so, we suffer one death in a country of 315 million people that's attributable to some sort of an electrical issue. So you look at this and you think, is this really significant enough that we need 25 pages of regulation? Why not let Darwin do his job? And beyond that, the one thing I am looking forward to, Graham, there's got to be pending somewhere 25 pages of regulation on how you and I can celebrate Ramadan.
Gotta be from this administration, that's for sure. Terry, thanks.